So we've seen a lot of hypocrisy in some of our mainstream media outlets recently, more so recently than I've seen in a long time, and more obvious than recently. One of those things being, so you have the same organizations that when the pandemic first hit, they were criticizing President Trump for not taking it seriously enough. They were criticizing people for not wearing masks, saying it's important to social distance, how dangerous, how scary this is, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. And then all of a sudden, the protests break out, and I haven't seen any of those news organizations worried about the protesters possibly spreading COVID. And I've been to some of these protests, and let me tell you, there are a lot of people that are social distancing. There's also a lot of people who are not social distancing. We had in LA just a week ago about 20 to 50,000 people marching. I saw it with my own eyes. There were tons and tons of people, many of whom are not social distancing. But never once on any of these organizations do you hear them condemning any of these people for not distancing or worried about their health. Now all of a sudden, Trump is having a rally, and now we're worried about social distancing again. This is Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, and she gave a press briefing today. Prepared, she knew what was going to happen, and people just unloaded a barrage of questions asking her about the rally and if there were going to be social distancing, and here was her response.
Yes. Kayleigh, in the last day, 96 people in Tulsa have contracted the coronavirus. Wondering about this rally coming up on Saturday. Will the president or the White House take responsibility if people get sick and catch the coronavirus at this rally on Saturday?
So the campaign has taken certain measures to make sure this is a safe rally, temperature checks, hand sanitizers, and masks, so we are taking precautions.
But you're not requiring people to wear masks.
They will be given a mask. It's up to them whether to make that decision. CDC guidelines are recommended but not required.
And the CDC guidelines suggest that people practice social distancing. You're not going to be able to practice social distancing in a rally with thousands of people. So aren't you, in essence, bringing people to a rally where they won't be abiding by those guidelines?
It's the personal choice of individuals as to what to do, but if we want to talk about internal coherence, I believe that the media needs to work on internal coherence. This wonderful New York Post story, I don't think Stephen Nelson's here, but good job to the New York Post, highlights the hypocrisy of the media where this is okay, protesting, this is not okay, Trump rallies. It's really remarkable, and I think the American people have taken notice when, for instance, NBC tweets at 4:05 p.m. On June 14th, Rally for Black Trans Lives draws packed crowd to Brooklyn Museum Plaza, seeming to be lauding the protest. And then less than an hour and a half later, they say President Trump plans to rally, but health experts are questioning that decision. CBS had a similar, logically inconsistent tweet. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope we start seeing more consistent headlines. Thanks very much.
Her response was absolutely brilliant. She came in prepared. She knew she was going to get a barrage of questions about the Trump rallies, because this has been a huge thing. And what I actually think this is they're scared for his people to get together. He had over 1 million people try to sign up for this rally. I think they only have about 19,000 seats. So I'm happy that the New York Post was honest and posted that. I mean, it was the cover story on the New York Post saying sick hypocrisy, which is exactly true. It is sick hypocrisy, and a lot of people are starting to wake up to this right now. And what it's doing, and Jim Acosta, he's the one that was asking those questions. He's a journalist with CNN. It really exposes the true intentions of some of these news organizations. It isn't necessarily to keep people safe. It's to push a narrative that you want to push, and their narrative is very liberal. So you do it on this side, it's okay. You do it on the other side, all of a sudden you're a scary, awful, evil person, a granny killer, whatever else you want to call it. I remember the exact moment that I stopped watching CNN, and it was a few years ago during the Ferguson situation. I was watching, and if you don't remember, Michael Brown was shot. That was the start of the Black Lives Matter movement, and the slogan at the time was like, hands up, don't shoot. I was watching Anderson Cooper interview the chief of police in Ferguson, and he was interrogating him on why there weren't more black men and women on his police force. And the man is trying to answer Anderson, and Anderson is just interrogating him, and just making the police chief out to be an evil person, which I don't think he was by any means. And in that moment, it was like, I don't know, it just became really clear to me, because I was working for the government at the time, and we were in charge of hiring for a specific job, and we needed a balance of men and women. But the problem was we didn't have enough men that were applying, and you can't just hire any man. It has to be obviously someone who is qualified and is going to be a good candidate for that position. But we just weren't having men apply. So you could have looked at our area and you could have called us sexist for not hiring men, but the truth of the matter is men just weren't applying. It was a social work field that's very female dominated. So to me, if you want to get to the bottom of why something isn't represented, you go through the steps before you start interrogating someone on national television. And it was like I'm sitting there watching this, and it was like someone just pulled the curtain from over my head, or the veil from over my head, and I finally saw it for what it was. You know, it's not for the betterment of the people. It's to push a narrative. And every time I watch Jim Acosta go into these press briefings and the questions that he asks, again, he's not trying to get to the truth. He's not trying to give people good information. That's what you're supposed to do as a journalist. You're supposed to give people information that helps them. All he's doing is trying to grandstand and be the hero and make a scene. And it, quite frankly, has not been working out for him at all. But that's the story. I hope you enjoyed that clip. And Miss Kayleigh, I really like her as a press secretary. Bye.